Enjoy a seat at the table and good company, where great conversations and meaningful discussions happen.
That this part 2 of my conversation with the women at this table will absolutely be lively. So I am pleased to again be in the company of Sharon Tucker, City of Fort Wayne Councilwoman for the 6th District, SHEILA Curry-Campbell, Allen County Council Member for District 1, and Regina Jones, who ran for Fort Wayne Community School Board for District 2. So welcome to our continuing of the conversation. So when we took a little break for part 2 of this, we were sort of talking also again about this issue of that there is absolutely the double standard for women when they run for office, and then we're calling it the triple standard for Black women when they run for office. And one of the things also that we were talking about was some of the issues, you know, that your gender, you can't hide your gender, and obviously you can't hide the color of your skin. And why is it that when you go out and are campaigning in certain neighborhoods, and as Regina experienced, there is this fear and some hatred. But one of the things that I'm wondering about is, does geography play a role in how Black women do in campaigning and holding office, because of the fact that Indiana and City of Fort Wayne is very Republican? Do you feel that, and the majority of women and also Black women are Democrats, do you think that that geography does play in how we're doing in terms of women and Black women holding local office?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, if we were in Chicago, Atlanta, Georgia now, Indianapolis, Gary, Indiana, the advice that I would have given to Regenia or even SHEILA, myself, would be completely different because the dynamics of the community, the geography is completely different. When we live in an area where the numbers are so skewed the one direction, your approach to victory has to reflect those numbers.
Okay, and that's partly because I believe that it is 15.2% Black, and then it is 87% white, and then there's 4% Hispanic.
Right.
Allen County.
So that's a real reality, right? If you're running at a race that is at large and you need that population, it becomes more challenging to carry a agenda that would be offensive to that 68%.
Okay.
Because even if you had every single African-American Democrat come to the polls, you still would lose. Your only victory would be that you had every single African-American come to the polls. So it's unfortunate that you have to dance this line that requires you to be able to speak to everyone, yet still be true to yourself. And I think that that's the biggest thing when running for office, is how do I cast a message that opens, that this is a big net in my, in electing me, you're opening a big net, but you still are true to who you are and the message that you have to deliver.
Okay, so in this part, I also want to broaden this conversation a little bit to issues that our community is facing in general. So when you talk about the agenda and what you present, in terms of if it's being perceived as offensive or not, how do you think the media here does in presenting and talking about African Americans and Black women as they're running? What has been your experiences with our media?
I've only had great success.
Okay.
And 2020 has proven that Black women are the hot thing now, so it's just become even better. But I've created some really great relationships with those individuals that are in the media, I feel very comfortable with knowing that when they do an interview for me, that they're editing on the best side and they're editing the real information, the real truth. So I have not had any complaints about the information that has been shared as far as I'm concerned. Now, everyone has their opportunity to say, man, I wish I hadn't said that.
Right.
But for me personally, it has been great success with the partners that we have in our Fort Wayne media market.
And how do you feel, because also you're questioning a bias, and how do you feel with the media? Do you feel that they are able to be objective, or do you feel that they have a different agenda, or they do have biases?
We're talking about politics, and we're going to stay in that lane, because that's what you're talking about, running for office.
I also want to, in this part, I also do want to look at open up to the issues in our community in general. So
I have a great relationship, like Sharon says. I'm very intentional with a lot of things that I do. I'm always looking at the news, finding out who is the new Black addition to the network. I usually reach out to them. In my past capacity as president of the NAACP, we always would look for them, invite them in to MC our annual events or some way to partner with us. Just getting them out there so people in the community know them. Hey, we have a new, evening or weekend anchor or whatever. Maybe you guys can use them at your fundraiser, or maybe So just bringing those folks in. I think, like I say, my word, and you asked the question the last segment, I should have told you my word was intentional, because that is my word of the year, is intentional. But far as when it comes to the news, I have a great relationship with the paper, great relationship with the local folks. They'll call me, they may ask me something, and can I get this on the record? I'll either tell them yay or nay, or I'll let them know who they might want to talk to that they can get a direct quote from. A lot of times you don't want to talk with the press unless you know how they're going to deliver your message. But like Sharon said, they'll pick the A and the C and leave the B out. But once again, it's just having those relationships and building that trust, where you know that, hey, if you call on me, I'm going to be firm. I'm going to tell you. But I want to play devil's advocate to you a little bit with the idea that you said that, like, you look at people's Facebook, and if they only have one African American, they really may not be your friend and whatnot. But why is it that you would only invite the African American reporter into your community to MC your event? Why is it that if you want to bring in, and we're talking about diversity and inclusivity, and I brought this up to you, Sharon, in all disclosure, when we were talking about being able to market and understand Southeast Fort Wayne.
Correct.
And you said that it needs to be, you would want someone in your community, and I argued that I am a minority-owned business and I am in your community. Why won't you do that? So that, again, it's building that bridge. Like, Southeast doesn't only have to be the African American community. I sort of feel that if we keep it as just an African American community, we are never going to have a cohesive Fort Wayne. That's not to say that you're going to lose your culture and your identity, but I do think we have to think about, if you're going to be intentional and inclusive, why wouldn't you invite anybody, like me, for instance, to come in to be part of an event that you're having?
That's an awesome question that you asked. Once again, we're talking about the media and bringing in, you got to remember, these networks usually bring in people of color for 1 year and 1 year only. They're only here for a short period of time, and then they're out.
But that's not because, in truth, as a member of the media, it's not because of the stations. It's because a market like Fort Wayne is an entry-level market, and the truth is just like Sharon pointed out, Black women are hot right now. The reality of it is that a station in a bigger market is going to pick someone because they want to make sure they have diversity and inclusivity, so they take and pluck that person. It's not because the stations here are not committed to having a anchors and reporters that reflect the community.
So if I may,
Okay.
go.
I think timing is everything.
Okay.
And I do think it's important to bring in Caucasian, but I think it's all about timing. And right now, personally, for me, I'm going to speak for the youth.
Yep.
I want the youth that I serve to see African American people in positions like that. That's
right.
very, very important for me.
Okay.
Right now.
And maybe another time, but timing is everything for
Everything.
Okay.
Everything. This is
So-
the first time in my lifetime
Yeah.
that black has been right.
me. Yes.
Black has
Yes.
always been associated with being wrong. Black is dark. Black is so right now. Black is right. So if I intentionally make sure that I am putting black faces where they need to be,
Right.
then I'm doing my part.
Okay. But
And
yeah.
I want to talk about this too. You know, I'm 10 years when I started Queens Club.
Okay.
And
Queens Clubs is a group that you created for young African American girls to get together and sort of read books and have a forum to talk about issues and
Exactly.
come together.
And empowerment to be
and
comfortable
empowerment.
with
Right.
in their own
Right.
skin,
Okay.
with who they are.
Okay.
And
But shouldn't it? Okay. Go ahead, and then I'm going to make a comment.
so when I started that, you know, that club years ago, and you know, the young girls would say, you know, there are black girls that rock, and then it was a lot of controversy. Why black? You know, why not other races? All girls rock. And it wasn't about all girls. It was about building up African American girls who needed it.
Okay.
So now we're in fast forward now, and black is right now.
Right.
And our children need to see that, you know, because it's
Well, that was part of the issue of Black Lives Matter, when people would say, well, all lives matter, and it's Black lives. But I'm going to hold you again. I'm going to push back, because if you're talking to young girls, it's just as important that they see all women, not just black women. Like if they want to
it's been all women for 400, 500 years, all women.
But that's not true, because like if you
We're
look
gonna
at
argue here in a minute because
I want
I'm
you
on
to.
the, I'm on the
I
opposite
need to.
side.
I need to jump in.
You
I need to jump in.
Okay, jump
Yeah,
in.
let tap me in. Tap me in, coach.
Tap on. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna package what you said too in there, Sarah, as to why when a African American newscaster comes to the community, no one reaches out to her, not white, not black, unless the black folk do. When a white American newscaster comes to the community rallies around that individual and reach out. So we have to be intentional to make sure that our members that come into have someone that they can relate to, reach out to them. So I would push back to you and say, why doesn't white America reach out to that black anchor that came into and invite them into? So it never becomes a problem, right?
Right.
It never becomes a problem until the African American community catapults attention solely on the African American community. As long as white America is having their golf meetings and having their meetings in the Rotary Club and having their meetings in Kiwanis Club, no one has an issue about it, right? No one is upset. But the moment the NAACP invites a black individual to come and speak, the question goes, well, why didn't they invite white people? I thought we were trying to be inclusive. We are trying to be inclusive, but on this topic, we're being family oriented.
Right.
We're being, okay,
Well,
so going back to Southeast area and the marketing strategy that you and I had talked about, and you had mentioned, well, why can't someone that's not from that community or that's not do it?
Right.
The misnomer that many people think is that because you're Southeast, you're black,
No.
right? Because we have white people, we have
It's the
black
most-
people,
it's
we
most
have
diverse.
most diverse. And so when we say that we're looking for someone from the community to do it before we look to the outside, is because these individuals have never been given the opportunity to do the work first. And because the community has said, we want ownership.
Yes.
And being able to rescue ourselves.
Yes.
we realize that we need to partner with people. But if there is an opportunity for us to turn it around ourselves, give us that opportunity and then come along with us and partner. What we've experienced is that when we've opened the door for other people to be able to take the opportunity over the community, they take ownership, they take financial ownership, and they take all of the respect, thereby leaving the community nothing again. And so that's why we have the role and play that we have. And so it's not that we're not looking for outside sources to help, but what we want is to give them an opportunity within the district.
But does it have to be mutually exclusive? Because the idea of collaboration, and it's how you bring that together. I mean, you know, one of the issues that I feel that is very interesting, you know, you look at me and you said that you might think that because I'm white that I have biases, and I probably do, but one thing you don't know about me is that I am Jewish. And I am a minority in this community. And what I have experienced since I have lived here in the last year as a Jewish person, you know, anti-Semitism. So although you cannot take the color of your skin off, okay, when we're going to look at these issues that people face in institutionalized racism and, you know, systemic problems, they're also inherent in other aspects of the community, which, you know, so in sense, again, I'm pushing back because you made assumptions about me because you saw that I am white, that you would think that, oh, she has biases, but partly, you know, why we have these conversations. That's the whole point of it.
I agree wholeheartedly, and trust and believe. Nobody has to see your name. All they got to do is see your face. They don't even have, Jewish has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
It's the color of your skin. Jewish has nothing to do with it. You could be the poorest person in the room. You could be homeless. You can have the same clothes for 3 days, but you're still white. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So you're going to get that privilege.
Okay.
Because of the color of your skin.
But
it has nothing to do with you being Jewish.
Sure it does.
Nothing to do with your name.
Sure it
because
does.
They don't have that. All they can do is see your skin color.
Right, but here's the thing. When you talk about having a seat at the table, and you talk about the community in which we live, we are in the city of 300 churches. How many times do you go to a meeting and they talk about or have a prayer to open it, or want to say, you know, make an assumption that everybody believes in Jesus Christ? So I am put into situations every day where it may not be apparent, but it's there, and I experience it.
I respect that. You know, I was invited to do a prayer at something, and I'm a born-again Christian. And when I closed the message and I said, "In Jesus' name we pray," I received an email from a very dear young man who was very upset that I had said, "In Jesus' name we pray." And he gave his whole litany of why he opposed to that, and everybody in the room may not be a Christian, and everybody blah, blah, blah. My response to him was, I fully agree. And some people may pray their higher powers, some people may pray Buddha, but if you're going to ask me to pray, I'm going to pray in Jesus' name. And so you might want to let people know before I pray that I'm a born-again Christian, or don't invite me to pray.
No, I think what's important goes back to the conversation that diversity means we're diverse. And that's why I believe there's a difference between community, culture, and identity. And what we are so afraid of when you think about the community, and that it's the African American community, that if it's not just all of Fort Wayne, what we need to recognize is that we can have difference in culture and identity and still be a community. Like, we're okay with diversity in restaurants, right? When you go to a Chinese restaurant, you don't expect to find a hamburger on the menu.
Right.
When you go to a Ethiopian restaurant, you don't expect to find sushi on the menu, right? You know what you're going for, you know the experience, and you respect that. So can't we also do that within our community? Like, I'm afraid with all of this talk of inclusivity and, we have to recognize all the diversity, that I feel like we're trying to whitewash not only the sense of community, but losing the sense of culture and identity, which I think is also what a lot of African American young people don't have, is that sense of culture and identity.
So you just answered your own question earlier, which was, can't we invite other people from outside of that? But you can't teach my black daughter about being a black lady, and so it's my responsibility to give her that culture.
But I can teach her about being a woman.
It's my responsibility to give her that culture and that identity, and when she's amongst other people in the Queens or wherever she may be, then she's learning about that culture and that, because guess what she's going to get? She's going to get how to be a woman from the teacher that's in front of her in school. Right. She's going to get that from the nurse that she goes to see at the hospital. She's going to get that from the librarian that she goes to, because most of those positions have Caucasian people in them. So the only opportunity that I get to show her her culture, her development, is from me specifically in the area where I can control, which is that spot right there.
But don't you think it's okay then, but to invite other young girls into the Queens Club, because understanding other people's culture and identity as well as sharing their own? I mean, I'm sure, Sheila, if you and I sat down and really did a religious versus, ethnicity, and we would find that there are a lot of similarities that we face.
I understand what you're saying, but I guess with now, like I say, black is right.
Okay.
We're still trying to catch up.
Okay.
So we've had people that don't look like us been educating us, telling us what is right, how to be a woman, how to dress, how to sit. But then we got to go back to our culture and get educated from the people that look like us. Because I don't want a white person to educate me on how to do my hair. I want to go back, because I'm getting ready to send you off to college, and I want you to be able to do what you need to do to take care. I just had a lady, we adopted a family for Christmas, and it was a white woman. Mm-hmm. The family was black, and I told her, the family is black, 12, 15, 17. Her focus was on what products do they use on their hair. And I couldn't understand why was that her focus. So I tried to explain to her, you can't buy products for a black person that you ain't never seen or don't have a relationship with. I understand you want to buy her some hair products, but that might not be the lane that you want to focus on, because we as black women, our hair is like our crown. Right. And, you might think that buying me some frizz and stiz, I mean, I don't know what it's called, but you can't educate me on that.
But don't you think that put in an opportunity to educate her? And then say to her, maybe you could just go to Sally's Beauty and get them some gift cards?
We don't go to Sally's Beauty.
Well, wherever you go.
But that's what I'm saying.
I get what Sarah's saying. I get you, Sarah.
I mean, but I would have.
I think it's important to invite other races.
But see, this is what I think happens, though, is we're so fearful that we're going to make a mistake or offend you by even asking. Like, I'll ask people all kinds of questions.
It's offensive when you start talking about how black people take care of their hair. I think that's a whole nother lane that.
But you couldn't take it but someone's trying to be curious and understand. I mean, I'm definitely interested, because I want to know how you can put a weave in your hair where you can get, do your hair and get more hair, and that it doesn't damage your hair. Because if I put extensions in, which I've done, because as you get older, your hair thins, and then you take them out, the damage to your hair. So I'm very curious of how you weave it in that you don't see so what I'm saying is that there are certain things as women, that we can relate to, but I might be afraid, I even commented to Regina, oh, you changed your hair, and so I am interested, because I told him personally, I really want to know how you can do that, and that doesn't damage your hair, because extensions will kill my hair.
I want to go back, Sarah, to what you said. I think it's okay when you invite other races into different spaces. However, I don't think a Caucasian a Caucasian woman
Right.
can teach my African American daughter what she needs to know.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you examples of things that I had to do for my own children. My children, they had, you know, they had high hopes. They wanted to go to different universities that was minority, I'm gonna say majority was Caucasian. So I made the decision early on. They did attend Fort Wayne Community Schools until high school. And then in high school, I put them in parochial school because I felt if they were inspiring to go to an Ivy League college, I wanted to ensure that they were ready for that culture difference. And I am so glad that I did that. So things that Caucasians, they don't have to do that we have to do with our children. Conversations that we have to have with our children, preparations that we have to prepare our children for the real world. My son, he attended Northwestern, and he attended Northwestern on an academic full-ride scholarship, but he also was a walk-on. He experienced racism in every corner. But if I had not prepared him for that, you know, that space to be able to interact with different races, he would have dropped out.
Because one of the reasons that I want to push back is, again, as a Jewish person, when I went away to boarding school, I was one of 10 Jews at a school that is known to be for white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And there also used to be quotas of the number of Jewish students who were white who could go to certain colleges and universities. You know, there were certain, when my parents in 1973 wanted to buy a house in one area of Miami, Florida, they couldn't. And it wasn't because they were Jewish, that's why. And you would say, well, how would they find out, right? Well, when they do your search to see if you're credit worthy for your mortgage, they started to look to see where you donated money. And then they saw the organizations. So I'm not saying that other people should teach your children. I mean, I think that that absolutely is your place. But I do think that it's, why do we have to have these mutually exclusive conversations? I mean, part of why I'm pushing back here is because this is really the first time that I'm able to sort of have this conversation and sort of be able to say, how do we address these issues?
So
and why is it that we can't?
Let me push back on you for a moment, too,
Yep.
because I totally hear what you're saying in relationship to your Jewish faith, right? Your Jewish faith. The thing that I think you're not quite capturing, and maybe you are, and just keeping the dialogue going, but the thing that we need people to capture is that when I walk into the room, instantaneously, you know that I am an African-American woman, full figure African-American woman. When you walk into the room, no one quite knows what your faith is until you declare it.
Right.
So all of the biases that people have toward Jewish people, you get the privilege of blocking. Until you decide that you want to open up that
And share.
relationship, right? I don't get that privilege. And when I fill out an application, it's automatically determined which person are you? White, black, Hispanic. There is no Jewish box. Right? So you don't have to face the same scrutiny until you open the door. And the sad part, right? The sad part is that most people of your faith have learned that and decided not to open the door. I don't get the privilege to not open the door. And that's what makes it different. As soon as I walk in the room, the door is open.
But do you think that in some way, because we need, you talk about, you know, when you were talking about if you're running at large and how you get the votes, and even if you got every African American, you still wouldn't win. Okay. But do you think that there is an opportunity to sort of level the playing field a little bit of the fact that our gender, we wear our gender, right? And people make assumptions about women every day. So is there a way, because in Fort Wayne, I mean, I looked this up because I wanted to know, 51.7% of the Fort Wayne population are women. So if we as women got together and as a force and said, you know, because at the end of the day, we all want good education opportunities for our kids. We all want fair jobs. Women aren't making, I mean, granted, you've got farther to go than white women, but we still want to get paid for the same jobs. We still want to have fair housing issues. So is there an opportunity for us to say, okay, we're all diverse women, and Hispanic women are different, and you know, different, and they're even, not everybody's an African-American woman, but is there an opportunity for us to say, let's be a group of women, and not, and I, you know, and you look at why women are so divisive and why we can't have the Equal Rights Amendment. It's because women who stayed at home versus women who worked were against each other. Is there an opportunity to, you know, do that? And you may say that, you know, as you said about timing, maybe this isn't that time yet because this is the first time in a sense where you guys are able to not only, you know, be asked at the table, but claim the table. So maybe we need to wait, or maybe because we all are women and understand in some ways, not exactly, is there a way that we can help each other? Or am I
that's
just,
our nature, is for women to support other women. That's
I don't
our
buy
nature.
that though. I don't buy that.
I know, I see you don't buy a lot of things, but I don't know anybody been to a boarding school. I don't know anybody that I even talk to or interact with. So when you start talking about the boarding school and the Jewish and X and the, we don't even have those type of conversations. We still black. It don't even matter.
Okay.
Like you say, your daughter, she even went through things. She sent her to a private school, but she still went through things.
Right.
Why? Because she was black. But at the end of the day, I mean, we can't take this off. We can't take it off at all.
Okay.
And when you can't take it off,
you just can't take it off.
You have to teach your children how to be strong and be proud
in their own skin.
Okay.
So the reality, yeah, because you look at a class war, you look at a race war,
Right.
How many African American people who have arrived wealthy and still then find out that nope, just because you still black, right? You still black.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how many. And at the end of the day, the issue is that we're continually striving to achieve that American dream. And I am so sorry that my skin intimidates you, because you said it absolutely right. We do want the same things. I want my kid to have a good education. I want to be able to provide a safe place for my family to live. I want to be able to go home in safety, and I want to be able to retire in safety. My skin tone has little to do with that for me, other than the fact that you keep stopping me from being able to have that because of it.
No, and there's absolutely, I mean, even when we look at partly at the county level and your involvement in looking at the issues with the jails and prisons, and there's no doubt, you know, what the majority of inmates are African American. There's no doubt that there are these terrible issues that we need to address, and that. But when you talk about also that black, like this is the time and black is right, what does that mean? And what do you do with that? Like, how can we sort of, even on the local level, because I do think it's grassroots. I do think it starts here, and then it will trickle up in a sense. How do we start to build the bridges or recognize the differences, but also maybe accept each other, or, and you know, in terms of lessons learned from your?
I think when things change, when there's equality and justice for everyone, I think, you know, that's when we can come together more.
But, I mean, that's a pretty tall order, and we haven't gotten there in over.
No, I mean, let's talk about Fort Wayne Community Schools.
Let's talk.
They just had an opportunity to fill a position.
Okay.
Attorney Lemanoff passed, and they had an opportunity to fill a position based on the board making the selection. It wasn't a race like what Regenia just went through, but it was an appointment. I actually reached out to Fort Wayne Community School because I had some real concerns about how they were going to fill that seat. And I was intentional to let them know that they had an opportunity to equal the playing field. Someone in the first district, of a totally black district, you might as well say it. It means, say it, call it what it is.
Right, okay.
You have an opportunity to put a person of color in that seat because you don't have one. And so that intentionality, vocalizing it, verbalizing it, saying it, has to be repeated over and over again in every opportunity. Every opportunity. Sharon, you sit here on the board here at the library. Is there anyone other than you of color that sits on the board?
Yes.
Okay, but there is also an issue of filling the pipeline. Like, you know, with getting more women and building each other up. And, you know, you said you're very intentional and you push and reach out. But you also have to fill the pipeline, right? I mean, how do you feel that when you go out into the community? And Regina, talk about your experience about, you know, running, but also, you know, would you run again? And what did you learn?
Well, for me, I knew I was not going to win that district run. And that was not my mission. My mission was to influence the next generation. And I strongly believe that. You know, I think, you know, when you run, it's to break down those barriers. You know, for me, yes, I wanted that seat, but I think I still won because I ran and I had the courage to run. And I think that's what it's about, is influencing the next generation.
But do you also think that the majority of people who run their first time don't necessarily win because they may not be known, people don't know who they are? I mean, clearly your neighbors didn't even know you. So do you think that, so we can say that that's part of it, but what have you done differently based on what you learned from running? What intentional things have you done, even with your neighbors, and do you think you would run again?
I'm not sure if I will run again. I may run again, but I don't think there could have been anything that I could have done differently in the district run. You know, after I ran and I was defeated, I called on SHEILA, Michelle, Sharon, Glenn. I called on everyone to see what did I miss.
Nothing.
And I really don't think I missed anything.
Nothing.
So there was nothing that I could have done differently. I think my outcome may have been different if I would have ran in an at-large seat.
Because of, but also, if this is the time that black is right? Stacey Abrams said that a lot of women of color, that they don't only have to be feel ready to run, but they're also often told that it's not their turn, like to wait. So are you able now to utilize this to fill the pipeline and get ready? Because, you know, we've got to get ready for the midterms and the next election, and even on a local level. I mean, you know, we're not doing well. There has never been a black woman governor, you know. So what are we doing? How are you utilizing this?
And well, for me, I did learn a lot. One of the things that I have vowed to do, whoever wants to run, I am going to help them. You know, there has been several people that have come to me and said, you inspired me. I am thinking about running in 2022. And I think that's the most important part, is helping your sister or your brother, sharing that knowledge, helping them organize. So, you know, I had these women here to help me, and I need to pay that forward. But I may run. So I'm not.
And so, Sharon, you were smiling when I was asking about filling this pipeline and using this opportunity and time. Is that a focus, do you think?
It goes back to what we had talked about earlier about filling the seats. So words have power, right?
Yes.
And it is very important to know who your audience is when you're utilizing those words. What might sound good, what might sound like a sound bite, could be detrimental to you in the future. And so I'm very, very careful about the things that I say and about the things that I repeat. Will we find someone who we can run? We are always looking for women,
right?
No matter what race, to be able to help catapult forward. But I am not looking for a woman to run who is absolutely against everything that I stand for. I will
stand for as a black woman,
as a
mother,
woman, as a black
right.
woman, as
right.
a mother, as a wife, as a I can't.
As a
so
Democrat,
let me give you an example. I cannot support a female candidate who I know is a racist. So just because she's a woman, just because she's running, but she is anti-black, I can't support her. And I am sorry, but that is against everything that I exist for, because what you're telling me is you don't want me to be here. So I can't say that we have to have every seat filled, right? Because every person is not a good person.
Right.
And we've seen that in these last few months.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, we've seen it.
that.
Right. And there's certain jobs where
Right.
there cannot be, like people said, oh, with the police, like there's one, a bad apple. Certain positions, there cannot be
bad
any
apples.
bad apples. Period.
Right.
They need to be. There's no excuse.
In some positions, we can't have people in if they don't have cognizant thought process.
Right.
You can't, as a person that is representing people, you cannot be hot-headed. You cannot fly off at every single turn and every single handle. And so those things, in my opinion, matter when I'm looking for a candidate, when I'm looking for somebody to support,
Right.
when I'm running myself. And
Right.
so.
And to be fair, you've created the Women in Politics
Correct.
Forum. So that is to empower, engage, and educate women. So have you seen, since the election and certainly all the events now unfolding, have you seen more women and black women reach out to you to say that they're interested, or what can they do? Or
Yeah, I've seen a lot of women, almost every person that has signed their name up on a ballot to run, especially on the Democrat side and some on our side, have reached out to me in one form or another for a semblance of help, advice, wisdom to be able to help them in their race. There is one that did not reach out to me. Had she reached out to me, I would have encouraged her to take your name off the thing, baby. You don't need to do that. But each person runs for their own passion, their own reason.
Right.
But it's so much to wrap into a candidate. When you're running for office, if we take a candidate, can she be elected? Can she raise the money? Can she get the message out?
Right.
And that
will she be accepted? Will everybody listen to her? Will they? Right.
That's only part of it.
Yeah.
Because guess what? The campaign ends. And if you're successful, then you have to be able to transition from running a race to serving a people.
Right.
And that's where you go from being on your campaign side, on your party side, to being on the people's side. And you can't look at R&D, and that's what's gotten us messed up right now in our community. But you have to be able to look at, and that's why I said earlier, the misnomer is that people think Southeast is all black folks. It's not all black people.
Right.
We have a wide array of people's thoughts, opinions, and things that we're trying to make sure we encompass into the strategies that we put forward.
But there is some commonality of all of the people, because it is the largest area with the largest majority who live below the poverty level. And so again, the issue of that's something that's more universal to that to people, And although it may impact, the way you feel it or ability to get a job based on race. Right. But so how do we build the framework for a more inclusive politics and political system?
Messaging.
We are doing that right now. I think that right now, folks like Ms. Jones have definitely encouraged people. I think a lot of people looked at her race and, all of her marketing that she did, and everybody everything that you put out there was just A+. I just want you to know that. There was so many people that reached out to me that wanted to know what can they do to help the party. My thing is educating yourself. A lot of folks ran. We had several people ran. We had Mr. Wilson out in East Allen County. We had Melissa with the county. All of those people now have been either appointed or elected to a board. And so now they're back at the grassroots, getting their name out there, understanding how the machine works. There's a lot of education that we must do. It's an off year. We do not have an election this year. I keep saying next year, but we don't have an election. Right. And so how do we get people to the table to become more engaged, where they're understanding what the difference of county, the city, the school board. Right. Redistricting is one of those things I think we talked about in the last hour.
Do you think that
briefly.
we're going to see it, the redistricting within the, not for the federal level, but do you think we're going to see redistricting and changes on our local level?
Oh, we will definitely see changes. Like I say, the census is done. Right. This is part 2. This is the next step.
Right, we're waiting
to
see.
You need to ask that next question, right? Like, will we see changes that help impact equality? Right. And the answer is probably not.
Right. We saw that, but we saw that even on a party level of how they draw to make it so the Republicans are holding on to certain things.
But you got to remember, we're in Indiana.
Right.
Indiana, there was a point, I moved back here in 2000. There was a point that people would say Indiana's the worst place for a black man to live. It was actually out there. You understand? So how do we change the thought process of people in Indiana? It's got to start at the top. How do you get more people that look like us out front?
Right.
Stop having all of these. I mean, people just had a thing about the Fort Wayne Police Department, just put something in there with the task force, and they had all these white people that's basically policing.
Let me jump in on you, because that's why I think the message, and I know we only have a few minutes left, that's why I think the messaging is very important, because we have a responsibility to, as African American people, right? We know that when you look at me, you see something that's offensive. So what I need to do is be a friend as much as I can to let you know that I'm not, so that we can give you the ability to see me as a human being and not as the monsters that people have taught you that I am. And so to me, that's why messaging becomes very important, because when I say things that may very well be true, when I say something that may very well be true and give me self-pride, I am also aware that that may take self-pride away from you. And so I try to gingerly meet you in the middle. I'm not going to apologize for being black, for being African American, but I'm going to try to meet you in the middle to help you understand that I'm also human, and it's okay to accept my humanity and support me.
Right. Which is what I think also for women to come together and support us, I think, as women also. Because
I think if we have more of that, Sarah, I think that we will then start to see that great divide come back to some, but right now, people are fighting stake in the ground for their territory.
Right. But I also think that when you talk about education, I mean, we were talking about this in the break. We've got to educate people of why voting in their local elections matter, and why voting for your prosecutor matters, because if you wanted them to decide what cases they're going to prosecute, or the judges, if you want to change eviction reform, it's the judges. And so I think that goes across the board. I don't believe that has race to
Man,
do.
we
I
could
just have it
talk
to be.
again about that.
Well,
we need to educate
you
the
might feel that
community.
way, but if you look at Allen County Court,
Yeah.
you don't have a black judge. Houston, there's a problem.
Right. Absolutely.
You don't have a black judge. You got one black magistrate. So how do you fix that? They got to fix it themselves. There are things, appointments and things that they can do themselves. If you don't run against the prosecuting attorney, Karen Rich is going to win every time. If you don't have a judge, you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So we talk about the pipeline.
Yep.
So people that don't look like me got to help people that look like me.
Absolutely.
You're the one that's going to be the one to elevate the people of color to the next level. And how do you fix that? In the criminal justice system, you could just start right there.
Right. And that'll be a whole nother conversation that I hope you will come back for. And I do want to thank you all, because partly the intent of why I created this program is for this exact type of conversation, because what I believe is that we don't have enough of these kinds of conversations, and being able to sort of push back. And I think even I wanted to point out that in the first part, I wanted to talk about some issues about what it meant to see a black woman as vice president, and some of the issues. And Sharon pointed out to me that truthfully, you can't look necessarily as black women on the federal level when you're worrying about what's happening on the local level. Mm-hmm. So for this part of our conversation, I shifted and I said, I'm not going to even bring those issues up, because that made me realize that this is where we have to start. Mm-hmm. Right. So I want to thank you.
And Biden's taking care of that for us.
Right.
Look at his appointments.
Right.
He's taking care of it for us.
Right.
He's setting the agenda.
No, it is absolutely
at the top,
because he has the most racially diverse of the preceding 6 presidents. And so absolutely, but we really do still need it to trickle up and trickle down, but we've got to do stuff on the local level. So
thank you, Sarah, for inviting us.
Well, we're not done
Sarah.
yet. Wait, we're not done.
We're not done?
No, we got one quick thing. So at the end of each program, as you learned, that I ask the 12 questions. So now we have 12, so you already answered the original 12. I have a list of another baker's dozen questions, which Proust also believe will reveal and Regina, you're going to chime in now because you have not answered these. Okay. So I'm going to start with you for this one. What is your idea of perfect happiness?
Simplicity. I just want to live a simple life.
Okay. Sharon?
Uninterrupted peace.
Okay.
And when I say uninterrupted peace, I'm talking about peace of mind.
Okay. Sheila?
Sanity.
Okay. Sheila, what is your greatest fear?
My greatest fear is, wow, that something traumatic would happen to my son. I have a 40-year-old son.
Wow.
And so that's been my prayer, is for God to watch over my child.
Even at his age
now?
At
the age of 40, I still have to say it. He's a black man. I still have to say it.
Regina?
I think my greatest fear is my boys as well in America right now.
Sharon?
I think my greatest fear would be, again, it flows to my kid, but it would be limiting her potential.
Okay. What is the trait you most deplore in yourself?
The trait I most
deplore.
I hate the most? I believe the trait that I hate the most is being able to see both sides of a, sometimes I wish I could just forget the other side and go on.
Right. Sheila?
I think it's my brutal honesty. Sometimes I don't have a filter, but a lot of times it's intentional.
Right. So, okay.
It's intentional.
Okay.
I love it.
Because sometimes when you have a platform to verbalize what it is, because a lot of people cannot ask for what it is that they need.
Right.
Right.
I'm not one of those people.
Clearly.
And so I think that's probably one of my, because all the time I ask God to just watch the words.
Right.
Let the words of my mouth be nothing but that of good. I have to pray that. I have to pray when I go in the room with some of these people because I already know I can turn it up
without anybody being in. My favorite saying
I
that
can
she
start
said
a
about
fire
her
in
life.
an empty room. Don't need no matches, no gas. I don't need nothing.
You'll
my
do the
favorite
combustion
saying.
yourself. It'll be the chemical
So
reaction.
I guess that's
Okay.
yeah.
Regina?
Probably my bluntness sometimes.
Okay.
I say things.
Okay. Which living person do you most admire?
Back to my mom, man.
Living person. My husband.
Sheila is your mother, right?
It's right back to my mom.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, everybody got a story. My mom got shot at 80 years old in her own driveway. God has been good to my family.
Yep.
He's been good. Good to my mother. Happy birthday.
Sharon?
Happy birthday to her mom. My mom is a rock. My mom.
Okay. And what is your greatest extravagance?
Expound.
Well, I mean, you know, do you indulge in fancy, expensive shoes? Do you jewelry? Do you
So yeah.
crafting materials?
No, purses.
Okay.
I have a an addiction to designer purses.
Okay. Sheila?
I love clothes.
Clothes?
I love clothes. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Regina?
Pampering myself.
Okay. Which words or phrases do you most overuse?
Words or phrases. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Pray church.
Pray church.
Absolutely. That's Sheila always says.
Okay.
My
Pray
phrase I
church.
can't say amongst people, but if I were at home, I would say, "You a lie."
All right.
Pray church. I think I say pray church probably
All
about
the
10
time.
times a day. Yeah.
What talent would you most like to have?
What talent would I most likely? My talent would be writing.
Okay.
Writing. Now, yeah, I would love. Yeah, just
Okay.
writing.
Singing.
Sharon?
I wish I could dance like Beyonce.
Okay. What is your most treasured possession?
My faith.
Sheila?
My dog, Karma Electra, wherever you at, please bring her back home.
Gina?
Probably my faith too.
Okay. And if you were to die and come back as a person or a thing, what would it be?
Oh my
Probably an
gosh,
eagle.
reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Reincarnate. I mean, I don't
Well, if
even
you-
believe in that.
No, but if you could, if you died and you could come back as
if I
a,
died and I could come back, I'd be a little hellraiser. Same thing.
okay. Sharon?
I would like to be the fly on the wall to know what's going on.
Right, right. I'm with you. I want that job. Yeah, absolutely. But no, but they cannot have any fly swatters.
Oh, that's
no
right.
fly swatters.
I
Yeah.
want to be the fly on the wall to know what's
Right.
going on.
Well, I want to thank you all for being here and giving us an opportunity to sort of take it further than being flies on the wall. And I do hope that you will come back because there's so many topics and things that we can unpack and talk about. And I think that that was my whole intent. And I want to thank you for that. So
I thank you too.
thank you.
Thank you.
And please join me next time when you can again enjoy a seat at the table for great conversation and good company.